On this episode of the Sports Opinions Podcast, I have an absolute blast with my two guests that I have on, Brittany Harris and James Clark, the co-founders of the Ravon Sports app. A really cool app that you'll hear about when the show starts. But outside of talking about the app, we talk about Kentucky basketball because they're massive University of Kentucky fans. We talk about March Madness and what they think of the NCAA tournament. And then we talk some NBA. So without any further ado, everybody enjoy the show. What's up, sports fans, and welcome to the Sports Opinions Podcast. I am your host, as always, Alex Cuesta. And with me today, I'm going to do my juggling act, something I rarely do, but I have not one, but two guests on. They are the co-founders of Ravon Sports, Brittany Harris, James Clark. How are both of you doing?
We're good.
Really
I'm good.
Really good.
That's good to hear. It's good to hear. I really appreciate you guys both coming on. We have an exciting show ahead of you. If you can see James over there wearing his Kentucky gear, we're going to talk some Kentucky basketball. We're going to talk NCAA tournament. They're both big tournament people. It's a fully basketball podcast. And the reason why they're here, though, I mentioned they're here from Ravon Sports. It's a app. It's fun. I got a little bit of a brief explanation from Brittany when we talked about it, but I want to hear more from both of you. So give the people a little bit on what Ravon Sports is. Whoever wants to go ahead.
Brittany, you go ahead. You go ahead and start.
Okay. So we actually, it's painful to talk about. We actually started this company last year, right before the NCAA tournament. Ooh, yikers. Yes. So just a few days before we got the news that we weren't going to play an SEC tournament, there wasn't going to be anything, and then everything else shut down. It was awful. Oh, it was awful. But our idea was that, sports are very interactive, and there's not really one place where people can get everything that they want for sports, where they can check stats, where they can talk to other fans about sports, where it's just sports talk. It's only sports related. So when the pandemic hit, we kind of rethought what we were thinking. We kind of thought even bigger. So we kind of redesigned the app, and what we created, we think, is a really fun fan experience. The fan experience has changed this year, and people don't get to go to the games the same way. They can't even see their friends in the same way. There's no tailgating. It's just not the same. So we wanted to create a place for fans like us who love sports, not just UK, but who love sports, that could interact, that could cuss, scream, shout. We did a lot of cussing and screaming this year for our team. But if you had a good year, then you might have been cheering inside the app. I don't know. We don't know what that was like. But so next year, I'm hoping that I'm going to be cheering a lot inside there. But it was it really did kind of make me feel better when we were losing, because you could talk to other people. There's also a live game feed where you can actually vote on the play. So did you agree with that ref? Did you hate that foul call? Did you really love that dunk? Whatever. So you can vote on it. You can comment. You can follow other people inside the app. You can check scores, and you can check the stats of the players. Are they injured? Do they have COVID now? That's a new thing. So it's just really an immersive fan experience, and we are super excited. It's free. That's the best part about it too. It's free. So it really just helps sports fans connect with other sports fans. So during the tournament, there's a lot of trash talking going on between teams. So you can do rivalries. It's really, really fun. So we're excited to get to talk about it and promote it.
Yeah,
so James,
it's been a whole lot of fun.
Real quick, sorry. What's the story of you two meeting up to get together to do this? Because people love backstories. I'm not gonna lie, everybody loves a backstory. So, what is James and Brittany's backstory as co-founders, as business partners in starting all this?
We have a common friend. So we have two silent co-founders. And we both know them. We are all just rabid sports fans. And so we kind of met in a very organic way. He met one of our friends on the golf course. And so we just all kind of started talking about sports, and we just had this idea for this app. And as we kind of started talking, we kind of all had a similar idea. We all have different strengths. I come from a marketing background. James has a very different background than I do. We have some partners that have tech and sports backgrounds. So they're, kind of our silent partners, but we just kind of found out that we all thought the same way about sports, that we all were kind of like, there's no place where you can really interact with other sports fans just all in one place. And so we kind of started with that idea and we've built it from there.
That's really cool. James, I kind of cut you off. What were you going to say? Sorry about that.
Oh, you're good. I was just going to kind of piggyback on what Brittany was talking about. So I actually was going back and getting my master's degree when everything kind of got started, and was looking at, so I was doing my master's in sports operations at the time. And then, so I was looking around at different jobs, in professional sports industries, things of that nature. And then the pandemic hit. So, great time to try to really move yourself into the industry when half of the industry is basically being furloughed and sports stopped. First time ever in the history that we could think of, sports actually stopped. But like she said, we had mutual friends, and for a while, our silent partner had been kind of asking me about different things in relationship to the app. The original ideas kind of came about at a time when there were a lot of really controversial calls in different sports, in NFL, NBA, NCAA men's basketball. Obviously, it's still going on. If you were watching the women's tournament, I mean, we can talk about why there wasn't a foul call in the last game if you really want to. But people love talking about their teams, their players, the refs, and they like talking about controversy, right? So when you go to a game, you like talking about controversy to the people that are around you and the fans around you. So we wanted somehow to bring that into what we could do in an app on a second screen basis, right? So the original features that we have, like she was talking about, where you can vote on plays, we actually take, your GameCast play-by-play. We designate like what is a foul call, 2-point shot, 3-point shots. People can vote on them. They can comment on those specific plays, whether you thought it was a foul, whether it wasn't. All that gets pulled in. We have algorithms and stuff so we know trending plays, trending foul calls, all those good things people can talk about. And like she said, the unfortunate part about all this when we were trying to start the company was sports ended up stopping. So we had everything ready to go for NCAA men's basketball. Tournament didn't happen. So we kind of had a little bit of a runway to try to figure out, okay, when reopening begins, how are we going to kind of pivot? Because at that point, we were only offering NCAA men's basketball, right? Yeah. So we kind of, we got lucky with the NBA the NBA was very open about their plans and how they were going to try to do a playoff series with the bubble and when they were going to start and how all that was going to work. So we started moving into the NBA and started using the same software with the NBA. And so that's how we started adding more sports into the app. So right now we cover NCAA men's, NBA, and the NFL. And we're hoping to try to get NCAA football going, hopefully before this season starts. That's a little bit of a tricky situation depending on how you get your feeds. But it's all been a lot of fun, and we've had a lot of people really like the app, especially the voting features on how we can say, this is a foul. If you just want to talk about this one play, go for it. All the other fans can talk about just this one play in that one spot in the app. You don't have to search around for it. It's very intuitive. The UI is great. And then once we started getting the feedback, we realized, okay, well, what if we expand it out a little bit and we add on just a community chat feature where into like a single game and you can talk with all the other fans, whether they're the opposing team or not. So there is controversy in there too. Now you can just talk about anything you want in that community chat and switch back and forth between the live feeds really easily. So we're continually adding new features, and we're listening to, our users and other fans about what they're looking for from that second screen experience. Brittany and I have been pretty fortunate. We got to go to some of the UK games at Rep Arena, and we got to tell you, even if you're at a game, we still, we use the app. We've had other people use the app. It's just as much fun, during timeouts or halftime to go back through those game feeds, see what people are saying, and vote on the plays you remember, even in game. So we're excited to see where everything goes while this reopening starts to happen.
So a few questions. Number one, are you guys looking to either include any sort of gambling aspect with FanDuel, DraftKings, anything fantasy-wise? Because those two are massive for sports fans. I think you guys as sports fans know how big they are. And number two, do I have to be a fan of a team to just go in there next year for Kentucky basketball and troll both of you?
Please do.
All right. So as to the latter part of it, we do not screen fans. You can get into those games and you can talk about what you want about those teams, whether you're, watching that game or not. We're not going to screen you and do background checks or anything like that. I
I'm
wouldn't
changing
worry
my
too much
screen name
about
each
that.
time.
Yeah, you can change your alias each time, so we can't try to find you. As to the first part about that for sports gambling, we're looking to include all the stats for fantasy, but
Mhm.
because we're based in Kentucky, we can't actually operate as a sports book. That's state
Okay.
legislation, right? We are looking to maybe do affiliate links with FanDuel and DraftKings so that if that's something you're really interested in, you can get the information from our app. But then if you want to place bets, do stuff like that, you'll have to go outside of our app right now to do it. Unfortunately, now if the state decides to vote on something,
That's a
hopefully,
whole
come on,
different ball
Kentucky.
game. Yeah.
Come on, Kentucky. Then
We're
we'll look at seriously maybe having some of our own sports books, but at right now we just can't do it.
We're
And
not
lastly,
super
before
progressive yet.
okay, that's
Un-
listen, it happens. You guys can't. You guys
Listen,
can't
you
control
wanna-
what the legislature does.
You want to
Yeah, I know.
you want to bet on horse racing and everything. This is the state to do it, but for other sports, we're a little bit behind on that one.
Yeah.
And lastly, before we move on, what is the connectivity to social media through Ravon? Can you put a community basically if you're in a game, can you share that game out there and say, hey, come join me and talk some trash? Like, what is the way you connect through social media with Ravon?
Yes, so there is a share button inside the app, so you can actually share the link on social media so people can join you inside there and trash talk, get on there and, be a friend to you, or if they're a rival. We have a rival in our own state, Louisville, and that's a big one. And there are family members that'll trash talk. I mean, it gets brutal in some families here in Kentucky, so we know what that's about. So we love that you can share it and you can get other people involved, and we have a lot of people that do that. So yeah, we added that in there. That way we made it easy for people. That way they could be like, come on in here and start yelling about stuff. We need more people in here screaming.
That's fantastic. So again, Ravon Sports, definitely go find the app. It's a really cool app. It's a place where, like they said, go in there, talk trash, be a troll, do what you want, but have fun, be a fan. But we're going to
we do have some filters. Don't get you can't say anything you want. We'll go ahead and say that there are some filters in there, like every app does for certain kinds of language. But we enjoy people having fun on it.
Yeah,
that's great. So good, clean fun. It's a family app. But we're going to move on. We're going to talk about, so you guys, we all mentioned Kentucky 1,000 times here, University of Kentucky. Obviously, if you can tell, both Brittany and James are UK fans. One thing that we've noticed is UK is not in the tournament. COVID-19 is a really, really bad thing. And it has kept the two biggest juggernauts, essentially two of the biggest juggernauts in Kentucky and Duke out. What have you guys had mixed emotions watching the tournament? Because I can imagine being Kentucky fans, you guys enjoy the tournament, the SEC championship, and the March Madness in general. How has it been watching March Madness unfold without even having the possibility of being in the Final Four, the Elite Eight, all that stuff?
You go ahead, James.
Okay, I'll go ahead. Yeah, so this has, Duke and UK not being in it at the same time. That hasn't happened since 1976, before I was born. I'm not sure how everyone else is dealing with it. It's hard watching some of the games because you keep, especially in the round of, 64, round of 32, where you're sitting there being like, if we were in there, how far do you think we could get? I mean, obviously we had a rough year. We went 9-16. Our team wasn't fantastic. They had spurts where you could see that we had a lot of talent, and if they pulled everything together the right way, they were a great team. But more often than not, they just weren't pulling it together, and it showed that having a whole lot of freshmen and people who we did have seniors and juniors and with Davian Mintz, and but how much you play together still matters, right? Like
yeah,
you gotta have that team dynamic. I don't care if you're a senior and you transfer, sometimes you just have to have that amount of time playing with each other first. And it just didn't seem to happen this year. But as far as watching the tournament, yeah, it's been a little bit rough not being able to cheer for the Cats.
I could only imagine.
I've been really bitter. I'm bitter about it because we didn't last year. It shut the tournament down. I was bitter last year. So going into this year, I was so hopeful, and COVID took, the last thing that I loved, which is my cats. And it was just, they were another COVID casualty. Every year in my family, I have 5 kids. So we do a big bracket challenge and we put them up on the wall, and my husband goes through and marks out the wins and the losses, and we win money, and you get a belt that you get to take with you for the year. That's our big thing. So we didn't get to do it last year. And it's a big fight for my family. Everybody's trash talking each other. Everybody's checking their brackets, who's winning. It's a really big deal. So we didn't get to do that last year. So that bothered me. And it was so weird filling out my bracket because all of these teams, I was like, why do I have these teams going so far? But there was nobody to stop them. There wasn't Duke. There wasn't a Louisville, which is another big team that I always have in there. There was, a lot of those teams aren't in there. So it felt very strange. I love the tournament anyways. Even when we get knocked out, I love this kind of scrappy basketball where they're hitting threes, the fighting to stay alive. I mean, UCLA, oh my gosh, from the play-in game all the way to last night, it's crazy. I don't know how you could not be watching this tournament. Like, what are you doing with your life if you're not watching it? It's so exciting. I'm up screaming by myself late at night. I love it. So it still is fun, and it kind of makes it fun because when they get down to those clutch games, I do care because, my bracket's hanging on by threads. So I need some of these teams to kind of pull it together, but it's not quite as heartbreaking it is when, you're watching your own team and you might lose. So it's a little bit more kind of lighthearted fun for me. But then, I try not to think about the hard part that my team's not in there. So next year.
Her bracket's beating me by 2 points right now. So yeah.
So for anyone that needs to really know, Brittany and James actually started Rave On, so when Kentucky gets knocked out, they could just trash talk everybody else in the tournament. That was the real purpose.
Yeah,
they got tired of trash talking their own friends and doing it on Twitter and stuff. They just needed to do it to a community.
Exactly. That's why we did it.
But it's rough.
It is fun as a UK fan, like especially with UCLA, like Brittany was saying, like. Listen, I want Juzang to score 40 points a night. I just don't want UCLA to win. Like they already just took our record for NCAA wins. We don't want them having a 12th banner. Sorry, UCLA, but yeah, Juzang, get 40 points a night, man. I just so that's it's always fun.
I wanted Alabama to win because I needed them in my bracket. It was a big loss. It was a heavy casualty for my bracket, but Petty was so fierce against us these past couple of years that he's played us that he drives me nuts because he's so good. So I didn't want them to win, but also I needed them to win. So it's kind of, but I just like getting to watch good basketball. It's so exciting.
It's touch and go. And we'll definitely get to the tournament. We'll dive in depth a little more to that because there is a lot going on with the tournament. It's such a weird tournament. But I want to talk to you two as Kentucky fans in general right now because you have arguably definitely one of the greatest head coaches of all time in college basketball. Leading Kentucky, it's just kind of, you guys are a blue blood program. When one leaves, you get another. But John Calipari has been a step above a lot of people. He has etched himself into that Krzyzewski, that Boeheim echelon where we'll forever know the man's name. I'm a Yankees fan, so I understand the pedigree of championship or get out. The last time Kentucky won the championship was 2012. What is the hot seat like for John Calipari? They didn't have a great season this year. Shined during the one and done in terms of getting NBA production, but not bringing the championship. They're kind of building the rules to stop John Calipari. Does he have leeway to adjust? Is he kind of the coach that when he wants to leave, he can leave, like retire at Kentucky? Or is it something where you're looking at it going, hey, Coach K, it'll be 10 years next year that we don't have a chip in Kentucky. What's going on? Britt, how do you feel about Coach Calipari?
I love Coach Cal. I think he's lost a lot of his swagginess, the past couple of years. And that was a real big thing. You could tell when he was feeling it, we were winning. So I don't know what's changed in his kind of mojo that he needs to get that back. But I think that's a big element to us winning. I do think that with these younger teams that it's difficult sometimes. Sometimes you get some kids that are really young. They just don't meld well. And you could see with the teams this year that have a lot of the one and dones, the Kansas, the Dukes, they struggled because, like James touched on earlier, they didn't have that time to really kind of get to know each other. So this, I feel like is a blemish on him because we've had, a couple of years that weren't better than the other, and this one particularly has been the worst. I do think it helps him in terms of favor that, Duke and Kansas and some of these other big schools have also struggled, and they have young teams too. But, I think that he has to pivot some. I think that we have to change some things some. Sometimes what works doesn't always work anymore. But I think that he's always had a good eye at being progressive. That's one of the things that I love most about him. And I really feel like for us, like you said, about understanding pedigree, he gets it. He understands this city. He really understands us as fans. Like, we've been frustrated because we've lost, but if you really talk to people in the city, we still love Cal. We still support Cal because for us, he gets what it is to win. And we do know that he takes us personally. You can see him getting fired up. He's always coaching. He's yelling and freaking out on, he's got his collar pulled up. He's getting thrown out of games. Like, we know that this matters to him. And because it matters so much to this city, and he feels he's been a good coach for us because he understands who we are and the kinds of fans we are and the legacy that, was left before him. So I do think that he'll be okay. I think that this year has probably shaken him up too. And I think he's going to kind of readjust and rethink some different things. I think, we're getting some more transfers. We started to do that. So we definitely have a good record with one and dones, but because we're not keeping players long term, I think us getting transfers of these older players is definitely helping us. It's been a really strong part to some of our teams in the last couple of years recently that we've really needed that element, that kind of senior element where they know they've been through this grind. Playing at Kentucky is not like playing anywhere else. If you can play here, you can play in the NBA because our fans are brutal. It's loud. It's crazy. It's wild. And I think some kids, they know it, but they don't know it. They get here and they're like, oh my gosh, this is a lot. You could tell BJ Boston was ready, but he wasn't ready. He wasn't ready. So I think.
Yeah.
So James, how about you? What is your feeling on Coach Cal? Do you kind of mirror that sentiment, or is his hot seat? Is he getting a hot seat? Is it getting warm? What do you feel about him?
I'd say it's getting warmer. I think not having the tournament last year, we kind of missed out because our team last year, going through the SEC tournament, looked like they could be a Final Four team. So if we had last year, we could have seen that team kind of come to fruition, see what they could have done. This whole year could still be a pass for him. It still is, in my opinion. I mean, this is, something that no one's ever had to deal with. Especially with COVID protocols. He's a very hands-on coach. So when you take that into account of how he has to manage his practices and everything like that, having players in kind of a pod system, you can't scrimmage as much, everything's limited. The FaceTime amount, how much more everyone had to rely on technology for coaching is a whole nother factor. So yeah, all of the blue blood coaches, had to adapt, and not all of them could do it, right? As far as getting new players and, the one and done system, to your point, with the new rules for transfer portals and the cross conferences, not having to sit out, any of that, all those different rule changes. Yeah, he's going to pivot. He's going to do what he has to do to get the best players. And he's already proving now that he is just as focused as he ever has been. We already got Kellen Grady from Davidson, who's the 6'5" guard. He's a great shooter. Saw all that in the NIT tournament. We already got from West Virginia, Oscar. I hope I'm not butchering his last name here. Schwebwe. I hope that I'm not butchering his last name here.
Your guess is
we'll find out next year. But he's going to be a great addition. We need a big man down low. He's really good. We do have our ones coming in. We got Damian Collins, Bryce Hopkins, who else was it? And Nolan Hickman, I believe. They're all coming in. So he's still got his recruits, and he's still got another year easily before Kentucky fans pressure Mitch Barnhart. But there was all the rumors about Texas trying to go after him. Listen, if you can pay for his buyout, try to go for it. He has the best contract. He has the best contract in NCAA basketball. There is no reason for him to leave unless we as fans, make him feel unwelcome. And I don't think the city's doing that for him right now.
Man, I hope he isn't allured by Texas, because I went through that as a Florida State football fan, where Jimbo Fisher decided to leave us to go to Texas A&M, and I will forever hate Jimbo Fisher because Florida State is in disarray. So he is on my persona non grata list. Now we're going to jump into the NCAA tournament. It might be a hurtful topic for both of you, but you do both still love college hoops. James, I want you to go ahead. Give me your impressions so far of this crazy tournament, where I think you both touched on, where it was a lot more about cohesiveness and being a teammate and knowing your team and chemistry than it was about the big superstar going to the NBA dominating the tournament. What have your impressions been of the tournament so far?
I'll just say one more thing about Cal with this year. I think what all the fans really start to realize was how good our assistant coaches actually have been over the last couple of years. And this season kind of really brought that to light for a lot of our fans. Kenny Payne's been killing it with the Knicks. So I think that's, something else that everybody is starting to realize, that he had really good staff around him also. And that's a whole nother focus that he has to try to refocus on. As far as the tournament goes, I've been pretty impressed with how they've operationally done everything. I mean, aside from, I believe who it was, VCU having to leave due to COVID testing, everything's gone pretty smoothly. Unless you want to talk about Title IX stuff, we all saw the video. That was just ridiculous with the weight room stuff. I don't know. In a year where NCAA, like just now, they're just having the hearings about name, image, likeness stuff. But this is the one year that you couldn't screw up, and they're caught on tape screwing up, right? So, aside from all that, I like the tournament. What we saw with the NBA, we actually like the bubble atmosphere. I think we see better basketball with the bubble atmosphere.
Yeah.
So it's, realistically moving forward, we're not going to have a bubble every year. We have to travel, the economics of how these tournaments work and playoff situations, all that stuff. The cities need to have sports back up and running. So we're not going to see bubbles all the time, but I think it has been a lot of fun to see them.
All right, Brittany, how about you? You obviously just talked about you're up every night watching the tournament. How have you? Obviously, you've had some fun watching it.
I have. I watch them like a crazy mad person. I watch almost every game as much as I can, and when I'm out, luckily I can check the scores with the app. So again, rave on. But anyway, so I love it. I love this kind of basketball. I loved it during the NBA tournament or during the NBA tournament, during the bubble, like he was saying. I just love this kind of scrappy basketball. And the NCAA tournament for me is like the ultimate, because they're just these young kids are just fighting it out. There's, no money involved. It's just, they're just playing. And they're just leaving it all out there. And it is awesome. And there's just last second shots, and there's all this craziness going on. I really like it. So I have Baylor winning. That's who I have winning. Gonzaga cannot win. They're fine. They don't have any championships, except for the fact they have had, what would be considered a perfect season this year. Now, I would just like to say the UK almost had a perfect season except for Wisconsin, and we had to play more games and we had a harder schedule. But if Gonzaga wins, my fear is that nobody will remember that. Karl Anthony Towns will never have been, the Harrison twins and all those spectacular threes at the end. It won't even be a thought. So my only thing is Gonzaga can go far. They can't win because they would have a perfect season. That's why I picked Baylor to win. But that's my little spiel about it. And then a lot of my top teams that I thought, I had Alabama going pretty far. I had some high hopes for them, and they just really kind of effed it up for me. And it was just real frustrating. My bracket suffered some heavy casualties, but I'm still excited. I'm going to ride it out to the end. Baylor's still in it. So that's my horse until the very end. So I think they're going to win it. I think they're going to win it for me. I think Gonzaga is going to go down. It might be UCLA. I mean, I don't know. That was crazy last night. And I'm excited for Johnny Juzang too. I hate that he transferred, but great for him. But somebody's going to take them down. So maybe it is UCLA.
So, my bracket has been busted, I think, with like the rest of the nation for
Yeah.
like my
There's
bracket.
no perfect bracket.
After the first week, I was just like, yeah, I'm done paying attention. I had Illinois going all the way, so I was done. I'm like, yeah, this is over. But I'm gonna have the unpopular opinion because I am an NBA over NCAA guy. I'm a pro sports over college sports. I love college sports. Don't get me wrong. But when I'm watching this tournament, I didn't enjoy this tournament as much. Me and my brother, we have a show on the side. And we got into a debate because I'm like, most college basketball isn't great basketball. I watch the tournament to watch these pro level guys take over. Like I enjoy watching Kentucky. I enjoy seeing these unbelievable talents just dominate everyone. And this year, I'm
It
okay with
hasn't
the few
been that.
Cinderellas.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm okay with the few Cinderellas here and there, but when the Sweet 16 is almost half Cinderellas, I'm like, what is this? What am I watching? And then you have
Oh, yeah.
UCLA, the blue blood Cinderella, where to me, I'm like, Houston's a Cinderella. Who the hell's Houston? Like they were.
I know.
But who's Houston? So it's like this tournament has been good in a weird way. It definitely hasn't been my favorite, and I paid attention not half as much as I normally do. But I do have to say, Houston has to lose because they didn't deserve to beat my Rutgers Scarlet Knights. So
No, they didn't.
Houston
They
needs
didn't.
Houston didn't win that game. Rutgers lost that game. So for that reason, they need to not even get to the championship. And I don't know. I do want Gonzaga to win because I don't want UCLA to get another banner either, especially on
Yeah,
a
I
year
mean, I don't want that too.
where they probably shouldn't even have been a playing team. They put Syracuse, UCLA, and Michigan State in there just to get viewers. So it's like, I don't know. I'm not too sold on the tournament this year, but so I'm gonna pick Gonzaga just to not go with Brittany. That's gonna be, Rave on Sports. We can go fight with each other there. But
Yes, okay. If that
so-
game goes down, if there's a game with Gonzaga, you got to get in there. We're gonna.
I will
if
come
it's
fight with you
Baylor
the
and
whole time.
Gonzaga, yes, we got to be out
it
there.
has to be because Houston
Mhm.
can't win, and I don't want
Yeah.
UCLA. But James,
No.
who do you have going all the way out of this Final Four? Who's your champion?
I have Baylor too.
Also,
They're-
I'm fighting you too.
Yeah, you're me fighting me too. I also do I also gotta say this. I don't think Gonzaga is gonna win. After I thought USC was gonna give them way more trouble with the zone defense and the fact that for like 90% of the year USC didn't play zone. They played man to man, and they could have probably switched it up whenever they wanted to. I was hoping that they were going to, and really see what Gonzaga can do against a dynamic defense, but obviously they just put them away. I mean, bad. Gonzaga has had kind of an easier road than some of the other teams. I don't have all the numbers up right now, but I think it's like they played like a 5-11. They played some lower seeded teams to get into this Final Four than a lot of the other teams have. Baylor, I like them. I think they have good defense. They're really good at capitalizing on turnovers. It's gonna if it does end up being Gonzaga versus Baylor, which I hope it does, because brackets are everything right now. Man, I think that's going to be a really good matchup. Gonzaga does have times where they've had 15 turnovers in a game, and not all the teams that they played against have capitalized on that. Baylor seems to be a team that can do it. They got bigger guys. It's two juniors and senior squads. Hopefully, their basketball IQ is high enough so that they can kind of switch up their defenses and rotate with what Gonzaga is giving them. But Gonzaga is a really good shooting team. I got to say, I thought Gonzaga was going to lose going into the Elite Eight game against, I believe I had like Virginia on there, West Virginia. But obviously that didn't happen. If Gonzaga wins, I already had a side bet with Brittany. I'll add you in on this. If Gonzaga wins, I'll wear the Timmy mustache for a week.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's awesome.
All right. I'll send you pictures of it. But yeah, I think it's going to be a great game. It should be a close game. But like Brittany was saying, the whole talk about an undefeated season with Gonzaga, there's always going to be a little asterisk there because at the end of the day, they've only played 34 games instead of a full 40, right? And then, like she was saying, that UK team, they went 38-1. So,
I mean, that was a good year. Back in the glory days.
Before we move on to the next subject, James, I have to ask you because I understand your criticism of Gonzaga's path because they did play lesser seeds. And in another tournament, I feel like that carries a lot more weight with what we've seen this year. does that actually carry as much weight where we saw so many high seeds? I think the average was 5.55 for the seeding in the Sweet
Mhm.
16. So it's like, it was a ridiculous number. Can that kind of be talked away? Like, hey, this was the most open year of all time. Yeah, we have 1, 2, 1, and 11 in the final four. But can Gonzaga kind of, if you're a Gonzaga fan, can you be like, look at the seeds in the Sweet 16? Does it really matter who we played? Like, what do you think of that?
So are you trying to ask like if the seating arrangement is like fair in the NCAA tournament, or if you just don't think the seating matters in how
I
we
don't.
set it up?
This year, does the seeding matter in terms of the past years? Of course, it matters. I think the
Yeah,
past year is much more coherent of a year. Does it really matter this year, the seeding, with what we've seen?
I think it. No, I don't think it does. And to the point of like I was talking about, this is a weird tournament because it is a bubble tournament, right? Like
Yeah.
how teams travel affect how they play. Some of the bigger schools, like UK, I can go ahead and say it, like UK, like we fly everywhere. The players fly. They
Mhm.
don't take buses, right? So at the end of the day, maybe that gives you an advantage because you're rested up a little bit more than the teams that have to bus to all these different tournaments and like back and forth between school. So I think that's definitely a factor in it. So yeah, to your point, I do think that the seedings this year really are just, you can kind of just push them away realistically. Every team seems to have come to the tournament on even terms. And so just
Yeah.
if you have that night where your team's just hitting, you're going to advance, right?
I mean, if Kentucky flies to Louisville, then we're in a fight. They better not fly to Louisville. But
They don't fly. They don't fly to Louisville. They don't fly to Louisville. But I
Yeah,
think
I think that they should, though. I mean, that's a rival. They need to fly in like Boulder. I mean, like that needs to be the place where they really fly in, where they just like roll out the red carpet with the blue carpet when they fly in. Like it needs to be, I think that's where they should fly.
they
But
would
I
spend.
also love NBA too. We
Yes.
love NBA.
And this is why you have someone like Brittany on here, because she does my transition for me. We are going to jump
yep,
into the NBA.
perfect.
So you guys, Kentucky, I looked at the map of what the nearest pro team is, and you have like 6 pro teams like within the vicinity of Kentucky, but you don't have a pro team. You have Indiana, you have a few like places that you
hmm
could pick, and I'm assuming some people are Northern Kentucky or Pacers fans, and I feel like if you're depending on where you are in the region, you might latch on. But what is it like not having a pro team to root for in Kentucky? And are you guys kind of pissed that you don't at least have one pro team to root for in Kentucky?
Brittany,
I
you go ahead and start. Yeah.
I think that if you don't know this unless you live in Kentucky and are a Cats fan, it feels like a pro team to us. They treat them like a pro team. They, in this city, Cal is royalty. They're a pro team here. So it is strange. I think for football, people gravitate towards, if you're in Kentucky, they latch on to the Bengals.
Okay.
But I don't really know in NBA that there is a trend similar, even though we have some teams close where we're all like, yep, we're all on that team. I think most people are kind of all over the map. And it is, I wish we kind of did, but I don't know. I've never felt kind of cheated out of it because UK is so big. If we had just a tiny college school that nobody cared about, then I would probably be pissed about it. But it's a big event and people are, chanting in the streets, burning their couches, drunk. I mean, it's insane, just like it would be where you are when we win. I mean, we're tearing our own city down. So it gets wild. But I like it because we have so many UK players in the NBA. I can flip it on and I can be like, Tyler Hero, he's my boy. I watch him all day long. So I can watch pretty much any team and feel like I'm cheering for some. I've watched them, most of them play. I've watched them play. So that is actually exciting to see like where they were when, they were with us to these big grown men. I mean, when you saw Anthony Davis that year that he was here, he looked like a kid. He a beast. I mean, he a real man now. And it was like real quick. You see him and he's just all jacked up. I saw him at a Drake concert, walked by him. I'm 5 feet tall. So it was just insane because he's so, so, so tall. But now too, where he's just, they get there to the NBA and Cal's gotten them ready and they're ready. And they play at a high level. We missed out on seeing what, an NCAA tournament Tyler Hero would be, but we have gotten some awesome action from him when he was in the bubble last year. I was screaming my house down watching him play. It was amazing. So I
Yeah.
love doing that. Jamal Murray, huge fan. Emmanuel Quickly, love it. Carl Anthony, I mean, Joan Wall, I could go on and on and on. So I don't feel cheated in that way because I'm a crazy basketball person and I love the NBA and I'll watch whatever team's playing. I watch it all. I just like watching good basketball. So I don't feel cheated. To me, it's like more basketball because I feel like every team I'm watching is my team because I've seen those players play before. So,
Yep.
James, how about you?
So like she was saying, UK, we do treat our team just like a pro team. I will say, not having pro sports, there are definitely times where we have gaps in, what we can go
yeah.
see for like live games, right? But to your point, if you want to drive, you can go see the Reds play, you can go see the Bengals play, you can go down to Nashville, you can watch a Predators game, the Titans. You can go, we have a lot of people from Chicago that come to UK. Like a lot of my friends when I was in like an undergrad were all Blackhawks fans, Cubs fans.
Okay.
So we do have a lot of people from Chicago here too. So I don't really feel like we feel cheated so much as it gives us more time to watch recruiting, right? So on those off seasons, I mean, everyone talks about recruiting for football and basketball. I mean, I give, Mark Stoops a whole lot of credit for kind of revitalizing what football could be for Kentucky and here in the Bluegrass. We had some bad years after Rich Brooks finally retired, and then he came back and he got people really excited about football again. So that's been fun. We finally have our football season. But yeah, the only thing I miss is there are definitely times where we just don't have, a hockey team to go watch, for example, or the NBA team to go watch, while they're prepping for playoffs and stuff like that. So missing those live games, it's hard sometimes.
I mean, I could tell you from a recruiting standpoint, I coached a little track and field over at my alma mater, Division I over there at Marist, and a lot of the coaches are pissed because they just extended the dead period. So even though there's a lot of speculation with recruiting, there's a lot of non-talking with the recruits, and a lot of coaches are pissed about that. But so comes down to the nitty gritty. Brittany, you talked about Anthony Davis. I'm a Brooklyn Nets fan. They're on my as we're doing this, just so I can keep it. Anthony Davis is a guy that I really hope just takes a whole entire series off because I want my Brooklyn Nets to get to the championship. When it comes down to the playoffs and stuff like that, how torn are you guys when you're seeing two Kentucky people go at it in a way? Do you pick and choose a little more? I'm more of a fan of this one, so I'm going to root for this one over that one. James, what do you do when you're in that situation where there's two former UK players there?
So I got to say the first thing that pops into our head is, well, somebody's getting a ring. So it takes some pressure off, right? So like you're sitting there like the last playoff series you had Rajon Rondo and Anthony Davis. You're sitting there, okay. If the Lakers win, they both get rings. Love Rondo, OG Cat from we'd love to see them play, but then you got Hero and Bam and all the young kids, and you're like, well, at least somebody's going to get. We just love seeing good basketball, and we love seeing our players, get their stats. Like I was saying with Juzang UCLA, it's like I hope he gets 40 points a game. I just don't want UCLA to get that banner, right? So, so it is difficult sometimes, but watching the players progress, and it's really easy for us, right? Like we have whatever it is, 32, 34 active players in the NBA. Not every school can say that, right?
Crazy.
So like if you're a Texas fan, you got Kevin Durant. Done, right? Like that's like your boy. Wherever he goes, you're watching him. We're really lucky that we can pretty much turn on to any team and be able to root for one of our guys.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Britt, how do you feel about that when you're watching two cats go at it? Even if it's just regular season or something, do you kind of pick like he made a better play in that run, so I like him?
There are definitely players that that you gravitate towards. For me, I really like. I love John Wall. I really love him. I really love Bam Adebayo. He really likes to bang down low. I love the way he plays basketball. He wasn't ever scared, so I like watching him play now too. Hero is just a pure shooter. I love guys that can hit crazy threes.
Yeah.
I love the Harrison twins. I wish they would have done better in the league. So, I mean, there are definitely players that I, like more than others just for those kinds of reasons, and teams that play more, fast basketball that I kind of like better, but I knew that the Lakers are probably going to win. You could tell they were. I really just didn't want the teams that they were playing, like the Heat, to just get kicked off the floor. I wanted them to hold their own, and that was really what I was hoping for in that. I'm like, it's Tyler's first year, be nice to him. But so that's really, I felt kind of like a mom watching him, like, oh my gosh, this poor kid. But it was beautiful to watch. So there are teams that I like better than others, but like James said, it's just exciting. And all of these players, like, even if they didn't play on the same UK team, there is a camaraderie, like you said, that some other schools don't have because they don't have a lot of players in the NBA. But these players, even if they didn't play, they all played for Cal. And that is a really common thing. When he got inducted to the NBA Hall of Fame, they were all there from all the different teams. They were hugging each other. They're friends now in the NBA. I'm sure they have, let's talk about old Cal stories parties. I don't know. But they can have those because they all have these kind of common elements. They know, Mrs. Cal. They know all that stuff. They know all the funny behind the scenes stuff. So I think I think that they're all kind of friends. So it doesn't always feel like a super, I don't know. It feels like a weird basketball friendship. I don't know. When I watch them play, it doesn't bother me too much. I just kind of go back and forth.
Yeah, I'll say Brittany takes on a mother mentality to Tyler Hero. Because I remember when LeBron James pushed him off on a drive, and you text me, you're just like, you can't do that. He just, So she definitely
That's
has her
LeBron
favorites.
James.
Yeah, it was LeBron James. LeBron James pushing off Tyler Hero.
He can do what he wants,
huh? Yeah, right. And
I'm like his other mama. No, he cannot.
Yeah, she got her Tyler Hero Miami Heat jersey in, and she loves that thing.
I love it. So I was super excited. Well, I feel like they are really feeling their city again. I feel, Miami is a bright city. It's got a lot of bright colors. I feel like the players that they have really understand that city. They're young, they're into that kind of scene. And I feel like they're really kind of changing the culture there in Miami, and they're playing along with what Miami is really about. So I really like that. And I like the colors of the jersey. So
you mentioned a lot of former players. I noticed neither of you mentioned Julius Randle, and I'm a Nets fan.
I
love Julius Randle.
So I'm a Nets fan, and I looked at the team, and I saw what he did last year, and I'm a lot of Knicks fans in this area, and I said to him, before they got D Rose, I'm like, that's a good team, and Julius Randle's a borderline superstar currently. You guys are an 8-7 seed at worst, and then Rose comes over, and they're going to be threatening for a 5-6 seed. What is it like, you guys, when you're watching these players? And don't get me wrong, from Kentucky, there's a lot of pressure. So there is a lot of flukes that come out of these major schools that were great in college, but don't pan out in the NBA for whatever reason. And it looked like Julius, with his struggles in LA, he showed flashes, but comes over to the Knicks, and it's like, what is he going to be? How is it as a fan of these guys? Now you're looking at him and it's like, this is the guy we knew he could be. I'm so like, Brittany, does the mom come out in you when you're watching Julius? And it's like, yes, son, go get your money, thrive in New York.
I do. I love it. It's awesome. I've been so excited for them. I mean, it is a really neat thing to be able to see these kids, like you said. Like, I mean, when you saw Anthony Davis, he looked like a kid. Julius Randle, he looked like a kid. They look young, and then
Julius
they get
Randle
there.
Had baby fat in Kentucky.
It's crazy.
In Kentucky.
It's crazy. And Bam Adebayo. I was just like, who are these people? Carl Anthony Towns. It's like,
Nerlens filled out too for the Knicks.
Yeah,
I mean,
and Nerlens for the
he grew up.
Yup.
And they all do it. And so it is neat to get to see that progression, and having seen them like struggle, because you're basically seeing them in the very beginning. So, we get to see them when they're learning how to get their shot on, when Cal's really coaching them to get to this level. And then you can see better than any other coach what he does so well is when they get to the NBA, they're not scared. They're ready to play. They can start in the NBA. And our players, when they get there, a lot of them, they start and they run teams. They don't, they don't come and be secondary players. They get picked to build teams around. I mean, Anthony Davis was picked when he was a draft pick to build a team around him. The same way with Karl Anthony Towns, Emmanuel Quickly. Like, these guys go and they're like, all right, Cal's guys, we can build a team around some Cal's guys. And you get 2 or 3, you got a championship team right there. So, I mean, the Lakers saw that. They just needed to get a couple of Kentucky guys. LeBron knew it too. He was like, AD's my guy. I got to get some more of these UK guys on here, and then we're going to start winning. Springs come when UK people come. So
yeah, it'll be. I'm interested to see with with Murray and Nuggets when they're going to start trying to pull some more UK players over there, and then Booker with the Suns. I mean, yeah, we can go on and on about all of them, but yeah, it's going to be that New York up there, man. Lots of good stuff happening for NBA teams up there. The Nets. I mean, your front office, it was just handing out checks. I mean, did you try to get a contract?
I mean, my J isn't what it used to be when I would just brick threes. Now I don't even make it to the rim, so it's like no consideration. I would have made it on the Nets 6 years ago. I probably would have been a starter, but now, overall, it's just a great time. And being a Kentucky fan, I guess it does have its perks watching the NBA, because it's like you said, you're looking 34 players out of 30 teams. You're guaranteed to see somebody. It's bizarre. My Brooklyn Nets, I don't think I have a single Kentucky player, so it's okay.
I was thinking about it. I don't think we do.
No, I think that's one team you don't. You need one. You're going to love you some. We don't have any great ones coming out this year, but next year we're going to put out some good guys for you. We're going to push some over your way. That way we'll be able to have some other conversations about it. But you guys have a solid team anyways. And it's going to be a really good playoff season. There are going to be some good games, and I cannot wait for it. Cannot wait. I'm going to be glued to my cat. Well, I don't usually sit. I'm usually kind of standing and milling around, but I'll be in there. I'll be in my living room shouting. So,
yeah, it's going to be interesting this year to see where some of our players end up. I think Isaiah Jackson probably has some of the best upside potential from any of our players. I mean, he's got the block stats that Anthony Davis had. He needs to fill out a little bit, get a good shooting coach on him. And I think he could surprise a lot of people. BJ Boston, I mean, he was 4-star recruit coming in. He had some nights where he was shooting hot, a lot of nights where he was shooting cold.
Some nights he's shooting 9.
Yeah, sometimes some nights not shooting at all. But if he's still around, try to take him, see what you can do with him in the G League, and he can probably work himself up. It's going to be an interesting draft year, I think, for our school.
So I think what we just saw here on this podcast is that Brittany and James need to start a UK Ravon podcast, because I feel like you guys and your knowledge of Kentucky basketball would be so much fun to listen to, because I just got an education in just the fact that the league is the University of Kentucky.
Are you just like a teensy fan? Are we 1%? Are you 1%? Like, if every other team's out, you're like, you know what? I'll cheer for UK. Did we do it?
So I always like watching UK.
Yeah, that's right.
The UK, the Kansas, the North Carolina, Duke, all of them. I hate Duke, and I hate most of you, but I enjoy watching you. So
well, just be glad you're not a UK fan, and you don't have to watch the stupid reel every year during the NCAA tournament. I mean, we have to see our loss to Duke every year over and over and over again.
Listen, I'm a Florida State football fan, and I see wide left of Miami every single year, so I get it.
It's like, shut up. There've been other plays. There've been other big games. You got to move on, okay?
I'll be honest. I'll be honest. People don't really talk about Christian Laettner anymore. I mean,
no.
The whole "we still hate Laettner" thing. It's like we only hate him when you bring it up, but you have to do it every single year, because that's the one reel that ESPN runs during the tournament every single year.
They got nothing else. So.
Oh man, but all right, everybody, thank you so much for listening and watching the Sports Opinions podcast. I'm Alex Cuesta. They are Brittany Harris, James Clark, Ravon Sports app. Brittany, where can people find you social media wise, yourself, Ravon, and your username on Ravon too? Give that out to everybody.
Yeah, so I'm the first Brittany Harris in the Ravon app. So hey, there can't be any others. So follow me on Brittany Harrison, the Ravon app, Brittany Ravon BH on Twitter. And, I have a TikTok account floating around out there too. I won't promote it. If you find it, you're welcome to see the craziness. But, I won't put it out there. My kids will be way too embarrassed. Too many people have seen those videos as it is. And then, we're Ravon Sports on Facebook, on Twitter, on Instagram, and on LinkedIn. So we'd love it if you'd follow us and check out all of our ridiculousness. So thank you so much for having us on too. It's been awesome.
Absolutely. James, where can people find you on social media? And also your Ravon name.
So on Ravon, I'm James Clark. You'll see our badged accounts on there. So social media, I work a lot on just the @Ravon Sports, everything for Instagram, Facebook, those types of things. So if you're seeing a lot of stuff on there, it's either me or Brittany. Instagram personally @JamClark_. We repost a lot of stuff on there. If you like dogs, I got a great German Shepherd that he's all over my Instagram. So
Nice.
so there's all that, but yeah, we love getting on podcasts with with you, other people that work in the industry. It's always fun to talk about sports. This is what we do. We're really happy to be working in something that gives us so much joy, and that's something we haven't had for a year, but we really get to work in it. It's an interesting thing to do. It's always fun.
Definitely. Yep. The exact reason why I started this podcast, to talk to other like-minded
Yes.
sports fans. So it's exactly what
Yes.
you're doing, just on a mass form. So again, I'm Alex Cuesta, host of the Sports Opinions Podcast. Find me on Twitter and Instagram @A_Cuesta30. Find the Sports Opinions Podcast on Twitter @SportsOpinion30, Instagram SportsOpinions30, and follow the whole entire network, the Opinions Podcast Network. 7 great shows, always growing. Find it on Twitter @TheRealOPN and Instagram Opinions Podcast Network. Again, everybody, James, Brittany, thank you guys so much for coming on. I appreciate anyone
Thank
that's
you.
watching on YouTube, listening on anywhere you can find the podcast. Everybody, have a good one all.